Hey.
Hey.
Do you guys know what a blackout poem is?
No.
Like, raise your hand if you do. Keith knows. Anybody else blackout poem?
Kenmore.
Alright, so picture you've got like an article, right? And you've got like a black marker. And you start taking away words in the article, and all that's left is like really cool words of a poem. You know what I mean? It's like it's erasure. You take away everything and you completely change the meaning of the article, and sometimes it's even deeper if you leave the title of the article there. It's like, this is what it was about, and now this is what it is. Does everyone understand the concept? Right? So picture that, right? Except I wrote a poem, every line was exactly the same. Okay, every line was exactly the same. And then I started taking out my own words to create more of my own words, if that makes any sense. This poem is about when poets are doing their poems, they tend to give these trigger warnings if they're about to do something that's really messed up, right? If they're about to talk about suicide, for example, they're going to say, trigger warning, suicide, because that's a very touchy subject, right? What I've noticed is that we've become so desensitized to Black death that we don't give trigger warnings for it anymore. If a Black person is about to die in a poem, there's never a trigger warning beforehand. And I say that because there's also sometimes still trigger warnings for white, you know what I mean? And there's still like trigger warning, grief, trigger warning, death, but for some reason, Black poets, they never do it. Right? So that's what this poem is about. So keep in mind, the first line is the line that gets repeated a bunch of times. You guys are following me, right? Everyone's on the same page?
Yeah.
Right? And then I start taking words away. It looks really cool, but I'm about to read it so you can't see it, and I'm sorry. Like, I can see it, and I'm having a great time looking at it. So, this is called, and I just changed the title of it the other day. This is called, Consider This Your Trigger Warning. When was the last time you saw a trigger warning before a Black boy died in prose? When was the last time you saw a trigger warning for a Black boy? When was the last time you saw a warning for a Black boy? When was the last time you saw a Black boy in prose? When was the last time you saw a Black boy? When was the last time a Black boy died? Was a trigger a Black boy? He was a boy. He was prose. He died. We saw a Black boy die. He was the last warning. When was the last time you saw a Black rose? When was the last war for a Black boy? I go through this moment every time I do a show somewhere different. I mean, I've been here before, but this is a different audience. And I go through this moment where I figure out if this is one of those shows where everybody claps after every poem, or if it's one of those, like, we're going to wait till the end, we're going to clap. Or I figure out if you guys are, like, quiet the whole time I'm reading the poem, or if, like, during the poem you go, You know, crowds do that. I don't know how often I'll go to poetry stuff, but sometimes the crowd's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that, like, in the middle of it. And, like, people in other crowds are like, that's disrespectful. Anyways.
What you prefer?
I prefer clapping after every poem.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at least doing that.
Yeah. Feel free to, talk in the middle of it if you want. I mean, if you feel like I'm just gonna start talking to you, sure, I'll have a conversation with you. So, after I do consider this your trigger warning, this next poem is a poem I almost never do, which is why I have to read it off my phone. But keep in mind the last poem we just did. And this poem starts, so a man was shot in the face. And like most men that are shot in the face, he died right when he was shot in the face. And his body, that is his dead body, supposedly landed directly in the driveway of my 4th childhood home, the one I left after 4th grade. And you know what's so funny about that is that house was actually one of my favorites. So when we moved out, I imagined 4th grade me was frozen in time there. So when I heard that this man's body, his dead body, landed in one of my favorite driveways, I could see 4th grade me finding him there. I could see the little girl that lived next door, the white little girl that never bothered to learn my name, the one that grabbed her grandmother's arm in fear the one and only time I made eye contact with her, bawling over a botched, bleeding black body. But what's so interesting is no one ever told me that the dead man was black. That is still, to this very day, just an assumption of mine. And no one ever told me that in time I'd start filling in blanks, or rather, taking a brown marker to the skin of every dead body in stories where bullets rip brains to pieces and spill them into people's favorite driveways. My dad used to say we needed to keep moving east. He said that the schools and the neighborhoods got better the farther we went east, and until that dead man landed in that driveway, my very favorite driveway, I had been thinking we could have stopped at childhood home number 4. And I guess I had always been wrong, so we'll keep moving, or running, I guess, east, until we finally find the black sanctuary we know doesn't actually exist. And we won't end up like the black girls that got shot somewhere right between homes 2 and 3, or the black kids that went missing around home 1. And we certainly won't be like that dead man at home 4. And we won't land in anyone's favorite driveway. Thank you. I like to pair those two poems together. Consider this your trigger warning and my favorite driveway, because I feel like the fact that it just starts like, so this guy was shot in the face, and I just feel like it just very suddenly comes at you. The thing about these two poems, I wrote them in college. I went to college. I'm 24, by the way. I'm not a child. I'll get that. But these were the two poems that I wrote right before. I don't know if you guys know about this. There was a pandemic.
We heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a really weird, like, abstract type moment for the world. Like, everything was kind of like this weird art project, you know what I mean? Like, what would happen if everyone stayed inside? It was like a weird experiment. We weren't allowed to leave, so I couldn't go to school anymore. And these last two poems were like the last two poems I submitted to college before it was like, dang, now I can't go anywhere. And I still had to write poems for poetry class, and that got really annoying really fast. So I started writing what I called crisis writing poems, and every poem would just be titled crisis writing, because I didn't feel like putting effort into anything I was doing. So I was like, crisis writing number 1, crisis writing number 2, crisis writing number 3. And my professor was like, this is a whole series. And I was like, no, this is me being tired, right? In fact, thinking back on it, I can remember thinking the last time I was as scared as this. I was miles from home in a hotel in the South, and a headline told me a man had been lynched in a park a block away. And a white girl said to me, this is kind of cool though, you know? Like, we're really living through history right now. When the pandemic started, I thought of her because I think I know now what she was feeling. Like an awful thing was affecting her, but probably wouldn't kill her. And I wish I could have felt it when we were in that hotel. They actually put our hotel in lockdown just like the country is now. So here I am again in disaster. Heart beating through history because I keep telling it to. Knowing I'll live through the virus, but this is different. You see, this is a hydra of a crisis. It seems with every mask scattered on I-90, 2 black bodies drop on camera. America has been growing ugly crisis head after ugly crisis head for as long as she's been. But we've had her in quarantine so long we forgot. Red blood, white skin, and blue uniform are her 3 favorite Crayola crayons. Americans are dying by virus by the thousands. Black Americans are dying by crushed windpipes and bullet holes and virus by the thousands even more. How many national pandemics can America fit in her pocket? How many can she swallow like candy? How many can she dismiss at a time? And how many will actually make the news today? That was crisis writing number 8.
Where did you go to college at?
Nowhere.
Yeah.
I lied. I didn't really go to college. I went to clown college. No, I went to Cleveland State University. And I graduated in 2020 of all years. To graduate. I graduated in the fall though. So what they did, it was actually really, really upsetting. People that graduated in the spring of 2020, like right after the pandemic, they had like this virtual ceremony and they recorded all these cool people like, what's the governor's name? Mike DeWine.
That's close.
Yeah, is that not his name?
That's him.
They had him like talk in a video, and they had like a bunch of other people, I don't know, address like the graduating class of spring of 2020. And then they were like, fall of 2021, you guys get these really cool people, right? And I'm really excited like we get all these original people. But they literally showed the same video. What? What? Like, is it just me, or is that the most infuriating thing you've ever heard? Like, okay, anyway. Here I was thinking I was special. Crisis writing number 24. Patrick Warren is shot and killed outside his home on January 14th, 2021, after yet another wellness check gone wrong. Everything I've seen since I saw the video of his last moments alive has existed through a lens of his murder. In other words, I don't understand how things exist as if this had never happened, and I fail to understand it every time. I replay life in my head, disgusted at how it all fails to gel together. My dreams are clips of reality in montage. Get down, says the officer. Rise up, says Amanda Gorman 6 days later. Be the light, says Gorman. Lighten the skin, says America, since America has said much of anything at all. Children are the future, says the world. You're acting like a child, says yet another officer. I am a child, says 9-year-old girl, handcuffed and pepper sprayed. How could catastrophe possibly prevail over us, asked Gorman. By blunt force and power, says I, actually paying attention. Pay attention. I'm not here to give you hope. I'm here to tell you what the fuck you should be hopeful for. Am I allowed to say fuck?
Yeah.
We just said it.
Okay, I just realized, like, I forgot to check in, like, I checked, like, is this the crowd that claps after every poem? Is this the crowd that makes noise while I'm doing poems? Is this the crowd where I can say fuck and shit and pussy? I don't say pussy in any of my poems, but, you know. That was crisis writing number 24. I wanted to read this poem because I've never... Well, I did read it in front of a crowd of people, and then I literally lost it. Like, I only had it written on a sheet of paper, and then I left it at an open mic, and someone probably stole it and is reading it like it's theirs, which doesn't make sense because it's mine. Like, it literally has me in it. But I wrote this with the poet laureate of Cleveland Heights is running a program, an intergenerational poetry project. Sorry, to tell the story of Cleveland through Cleveland poetry, getting these amateur poets from all different generations to write together and put our poems together in an anthology. And I'm the assistant, so I have to be at like every meeting that there is, and I have to meet all these different people and talk to all these different interns or whatever. But anyways, there was a prompt about place because it's a Cleveland thing, so the place is important. And this was the poem I wrote because I have a difficult time with place sometimes. So this is called When the Prompt Deals with Place. I don't have a strong attachment to very many places. I go through buildings the same way some people go through lovers. People ask me where I went to school when I was a kid, and I say it's grass now. It used to be a big brick thing, with stained glass windows and bitchy teachers and an unforgiving nature, but it's grass now. And my second elementary school isn't me anymore. My teachers aren't even there. The building forgot me, but I never forgot it. I found my 4th grade picture on the wall amongst hundreds of other old students, ghosts of education's past. I was wearing a pink button-down shirt under a black and white houndstooth dress. I stared at that picture for a long time and tried to remember the moment that little girl died, because surely that couldn't have been me. I saw a lot of things in that picture, but I did not see a mirror. Sometimes I pass my old church. I think I'm supposed to say I grew up there. I think I was supposed to stay Christian. I think God is supposed to live in me and I'm supposed to live within those church walls. But of course I left, just like I've left everywhere else. It's one of the few places I still have access to, though. I'll never see most of the places from my childhood again. I'll never see the room where I lost my first baby tooth. I hardly remember the apartment I came home to after I was born. I'll never see the room I was in when my mom told me she was pregnant. I remember the corner we set my sister's car seat in when she came home from the hospital. My sister does not. When we moved from that house, I remember my sister crying in the middle of the night because they wanted to go home. My sister does not even know of the past snatched from under them like a rug. Walls are temporary things. Memory sponges that soak in pieces of us and never give them back as we drift in and out like a breeze. I think that's how buildings remember us, as gusts of wind. Because you can't hold on to a gust of wind, but you may remember the goosebumps you got when it breezed past you. That poem, this intergenerational poetry project has been forcing me to write about myself in my poems, which I know it might seem like I do that more often, because I think a couple of them, the poems that I did tonight, kind of deal with that, but I have a really hard time doing that. I don't focus on myself in my writing very often. I tend to focus big picture, societal things, and kind of where I fit in it, but never just this is how I feel about who I am. You know what I mean? Which is really interesting because I post on Facebook a lot, and I say all these really stupid things about myself. Like the other day, well, it wasn't the other day actually, it was yesterday, I said, I just missed my bus because I saw a long red jacket in a store window and I had to buy it.
I like it. Yeah.
I really like long jackets, you guys. So I'm really comfortable talking about myself on social media, and I'm really more of a Facebook person. You guys, do you think you're more Facebook people or Instagram people?
Facebook for sure.
Facebook? Facebook, so they're basically the same thing, but Facebook is for words, Instagram is for pictures, TikTok is for videos, right? And as the attention span gets smaller, we head towards the videos, because that's where society is going, smaller attention spans. It's kind of terrifying. But I noticed that Instagram started those things. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. You know the boomerang things?
That where it moves when you video it? Like when you're taking a shot and it moves? Or what is it? I don't know.
I love how you just described a video. No, so boomerangs, they're like my favorite thing on Instagram, okay? It's a short video that plays and then plays backwards and then loops again. It's really amusing for something that's really short. They're only a second long. You blink and you miss it.
Goes out and then comes back.
Right, you're going back and forth, right? And they're really short, they're as short as a tongue click or a heart pump or a finger snap or the moment of hesitation the cop took before he shot a Tatiana Jefferson or the sound of the gunshot. I'm always surprised that no one ever makes boomerangs out of the viral videos that become our murders. I mean, we're always watching them over and over and over again anyway. But let's say we had clipped a Tatiana's down to just that moment before she was shot. and let it loop so she was standing up again in the end, alive. It would still last longer than her story did on my Facebook wall. But of course she got her moment of fame. Everyone was like, look, watch her fall. It only took 0.6 seconds for this officer to shoot her down, and she's pixels now. Watch her turn to analog. Watch her become her death. It's so astonishing. We always act as if we've never seen this happen. Like, this isn't proof of history repeating itself again. You see, Black history is America's favorite boomerang. She loves watching it swing from now back to the 1800s and back again over and over and over and over with a snap of her fingers. It's like time travel. You could put a screenshot of a Tatiana's death in a display case next to Lynch postcards and see how people swarm to stare at them both. And see how impossible it is to tell the difference. Are we not right back where we started? I noticed that history, like, coming back and repeating itself and just like doing this big loop-de-loop and pull and your shoes are looking cool thing. I don't know if anyone just got that. That was a SpongeBob reference. But yeah, see, there's someone is of age to understand what I just said. Okay. But I have a lot of poems about like how history is kind of coming back all the time, right? Almost like the repetition of history is as certain as the water cycle. So sort of like history repeats itself like water. And water repeats itself like history. It's like how we learn in school that water holds on to a distant past. That we're drinking the same water from decades or even centuries ago. Meaning, the water raining down on us today is the same water that left all those people without a place to go after Katrina. And the same water in the rivers the Underground Railroad followed to freedom. And the same water in the rivers the Negro speaks of. The same water we wash our curls in. And the same water we wade in that God troubled. The same water left rusted and indigestible in Flint's pipes. The same water they found Emmett Till floating in. The water in the hoses they sprayed us with is the same water that caught us when we jumped ship and held us tight until nothing hurt anymore and buried us where no one could find us again. This dirty water, this muddy water, this bloody water, guilty water, filthy water. Water repeats itself like history. History repeats itself like water. We learn in school that history holds on to a distant past, that we're living the same history from decades or even centuries ago, meaning the history coming down on us today is the same history that left all those people without a place to go after Katrina. The same history in the rivers the Underground Railroad followed to freedom. The same history in the rivers the Negro speaks of. The same history we wash our curls in. The same history we wade in that God troubled. The same history left rusted and indigestible in Flint's pipes. The same history they found Emmett Till floating in. The history in the hoses they sprayed us with is the same history that caught us when we jumped ship and held us tight until nothing hurt anymore and buried us where no one could find us again. This dirty history, this muddy history, this bloody history, guilty history, filthy history. History repeats itself like water, and water repeats itself like history. So I've been up here for a long time, I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah, so obviously I'm a poet and a poetry teacher. I feel like you guys learned something today. That's not what I mean. I'm actually a poetry teacher. Like, I teach poetry for money. I also perform poetry for money. And I'm on a board of a community development corporation in my city, South Euclid. I don't know what else is important to say. I turned 24 in October. Right? I'm 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's I feel like that's kind of old. You know what I mean? No, hear me out. It's that 24 is like old, like that's over 2 decades, and I really have a problem with that. Like I feel like
6 decades here.
no, but like I for me it's like I can't be 24 yet because I'm entirely too young. You know what I mean? Like there's a checklist of stuff you're supposed to do before 24, and based off that I'm probably like 16 or 17. But that makes sense. That's probably why I've never, ever, not once in the history of everything, ever, lost a game of never have I ever. Like, I always win easy. Like, a friend could say, never have I ever been drunk. And while most of the circle surrenders one of their fingers, overlapping it with other fingers laid down in defeat in rounds prior, I, with 10 fingers standing strong, laugh. Because I'm gonna win, and I know it. And I'm a sore winner, so I look at the circle proud, and I say, never have I ever seen a pork chop. And the looks I get after that are usually just sad, but that's okay because I win. It's the only game I can win for having such a clean slate, which is perfect because I never, ever have to worry about dirtying it up as long as I have this game. It's better this way, see, because if anything should happen to me, there'll be nothing to slander my name with, and nothing to dig out the dirt, and no dirt to dig into in the first place. I stay in line, I keep my head down, I keep my mouth shut, because I know how far they'll go to stretch a story wide enough to cover their own ass, to repurpose slight character flaws for a guilt-free narrative. Should I be gunned down tomorrow? May the news headlines paint me beautiful. Paint me truth. Paint me in full color, not just in black. Paint me human. May my shooter be villain in my narrative and not hero in their own. May the sound of their name be irrefutably disturbing. Should I be gunned down tomorrow, may you remember my words and know that I did not deserve to die. Know that I lived each waking moment so deep in fear of bullets that I forgot how to sin. And as you hear my words in this moment, remind yourself that the price for not following orders should never be death. Remind yourself that the price for one small mistake should never, ever be death. Remind yourself that a child, and yes, I said a child, that makes one mistake does not deserve to be shot, and shot, and shot, and shot, and shot, and shot. Know that his mother, like every mother, did not deserve to see her son's blood fleeing his lifeless corpse as he slowly decayed in the middle of the street. He, like you and I, was human and therefore made mistakes. He was 18, but I would trade him my chance to turn 24 if I could. Should I be gunned down tomorrow, know that I, like anyone else would be, was scared. When they dig up my mistakes that I'm too afraid to admit I actually have made, remember this poem. Remember I stayed in line the best I could, kept my head down, my mouth shut. Know that I have never, ever lost a game of never have I ever. 10 fingers always, pointed to the sky. Thank you. So wait, don't go away yet. I know he said to only do one more, but I'm gonna be disobedient and do whatever I want. So this is crisis writing. Yes, it's really short. It's fine. It's like less than a minute. You know, I'm gonna just do it to save time. This is crisis writing number 19. There have been a lot of different theories on how the world is gonna end because of some man-made catastrophe, like nukes or climate change or coronavirus, but personally I don't like the sound of those. I think they're all just a little too cliche. But I think if I had to write the end of the world, I'd have a curious black child running their thumb across the horizon until they found the edge of a smooth strip of tape. And they'd start scraping at it with their nail until it peeled away. And there'd be nothing holding the sky to the earth anymore. And the world would just peel back like the top of a convertible. No flames, no sickness, nothing nefarious. Just everything collapsing into our baby's hands.
Yeah.